is a really special squash. It only grows here in these western North Carolina mountains, and it's perfect for pie. Let's head into the kitchen and see what we can make with this. I think this will make about 6 pies. Hi, today we're making a candy roaster pumpkin pie. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn this squash over that's already baked for an hour, and I'm going to scoop out the pulp, and then we're going to mash it. We're going to need an egg, and I get my eggs from my neighbor who has chickens, and they're right over there. You can probably hear them squawking. And we're going to add a 1/2 cup of milk, whole milk. I'm also going to add a 1/2 cup of cream. Then we're going to add 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Okay, over here we have some ground ginger. We're going to measure very carefully. The women that I learned to cook from, my grandmother and my aunts, none of them measured anything. They measured in the palm of their hands. So that's how I learned to cook. This recipe is interesting actually because it's a pumpkin pie that only has 1 egg. It's traditional from the 30s. My grandmother's friend, Mrs. Painter, taught her how to make this pie, and so did my grandmother taught me. But it's born of an egg shortage, and that's why there's a little bit of flour in the mix. And another ingredient that comes from the mountains is sorghum syrup. And it's made from sorghum, which is kind of a relative of corn. And it's a sweetener, and it's kind of, some people call it molasses, but it's, molasses is made from a different product. It's very thick and sticky, and it tastes great. So now what we're going to do is we are going to roll out our pie crust. I learned how to make pie crust from my grandmother, who also taught me how to make this pie. And this is a family recipe that's been handed down many generations, at least 3 or 4 generations. It's been cooked in my family. This pie crust is very well behaved. This is the pie plate from the 1950s, and I find that I like these older pie plates better than the newer ones, because they're shallow and you don't have to worry about your pie being all gunky and underdone in the middle. And in our family, we make our pie crust using butter. You know, maybe about 100 years ago in my family, they would have used lard. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our pumpkin pie filling and we're going to pour it into the pie crust. Beautiful, look at that. It's beautiful. And we're going to bake this pumpkin pie in the wood cook stove here. This pie is going to bake for an hour at, in your oven, probably 350 degrees. But in this oven, we'll just see what it does. Okay, it's been about an hour. Let's go see how our pie is doing. Oh, it's perfect. Look at that. It looks a little bit plain like that. So what I like to do is I like to make little crust leaves that kind of identify where to cut the pie. I have these already made from our scraps. So I made this candy roaster squash pie with a squash that grows where I live, but you may not have candy roasters where you live. In that case, you can use sweet potato, you can use a butternut squash, you can use whatever kind of pumpkin or squash grow where you live. And now this pie is going to do what pie does. It brings people to the table. So bring your friends and your loved ones to the table and let's have some pie.